Okay, and we are back talking about mollusks. And right when we left, we were talking about an open or a closed circulatory system. And a closed circulatory system just means that the blood is enclosed. It's always in some sort of container, whether that's an artery, a vein, a capillary, a heart, an aortic arch. Again, humans have a closed circulatory system. Bivalves and gastropods are going to have an open circulatory system where the blood is not always contained, and it just kind of can flow and move through. Again, remember with bivalves, they have those different mechanisms in place to help kind of push blood through, but it's not necessarily a closed system. But again, uh, all mollusks are going to have gills as a major part of their respiratory system. And you guys remember when we dissected our clam, we were able to see those light feathery gills. And here is kind of our wrap up for mollusks, kind of the main mollusk body plan. All mollusks are going to have a head. They're all going to have a visceral mass. They're all going to have a muscular foot. And I included a shell. Again, not all mollusks are going to have shells, but most will. Uh, so there you go. We have our head, our foot, and then our visceral mass, which is just everything else. And then a couple of quick little science tidbits for you about mollusks, and we are moving on to annelids. So we have our earthworms, we have our leeches, and then we have our marine worms or our bristle worms. And that's actually what that word means, that polyceta. Poly again means many, and then ceta means bristle, so it has many bristles. And then we have our oligocetas, our earthworms. And oligo means, boy, I think it means relatively few or more sparse. So again, earthworms, all annelids have those little bristles, those little CDs. Right here, it's really zoomed in. Um, um, but earthworms move by being able to contract and expand all of their segments. And we have longitudinal muscles and we have circular muscles, and it gets really cool. When we talk about the nervous system, we again have that central cerebral ganglia, and it gets spread out. And you guys can see we have nerves running to every segment there. But there is some cephalization. There is that gathering of all those nerves first on the ventral nerve cord, and then it gathers in that cerebral ganglia. Oh, and really quickly, remember, you guys should have seen that ventral nerve cord when you dissected your earthworm. Uh, but probably not the more interesting, but the easier to see part of the earthworm that you guys dissected was the digestive tract. We have our pharynx, our esophagus, our crop, and our gizzard. And I included a diagram and then an actual dissection as well. Again, remember the crop and the gizzard are stacked right on top of each other. The easy way to tell them apart is the crop is going to be pliable because it has to be able to expand to take in more food, whereas the gizzard is going to be very, very hard because it's muscular and its job is to grind that food down. Remember that earthworms are coelomates. We had to cut off all of that extra mesoderm, all that connective tissue. Um, But an earthworm does have a closed circulatory system. It doesn't have a heart per se. It has this kind of precursor to a heart that we would call an aortic arch. So if you said that an earthworm has 5 hearts, you're not wrong, but you're not really right either. So be careful with your terminology there. The important thing to take from this slide, though, would be that earthworms, and in fact all annelids, are coelomates. And finally, the excretory system in earthworms, how does it get rid of the stuff that it doesn't need? Well, it has these really cool things called nephridias, and you can see they kind of loop around until they're able to exit. And earthworms essentially are just able to leak out the nitrogenous waste that they don't need anymore. But these nephridia are kind of like kidneys or other filtering organs in humans.